Sisters of the shining moon, heaven, earth, and sea, I call upon you in this hour, bring magic unto me. Brothers, oh, the cauldron cries, it singeth unto me the songs of Mother Goddess and the Father in the tree.
Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are off adventuring into the spaces between. I hope y'all are having just a fantastic Friday. Saturday. It's Saturday. Sorry, y'all. Hi. I hope y'all are just, yeah. Funny thing. I'll get to it in a minute. I promise. So we're being broadcast live tonight on Truth Frequency Radio, iHeartRadio, TuneIn and TalkStream Live, and also in on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button, the like, subscribe, all that jazz. You'll know how to do this. And no matter how you are hearing me, make sure you stop in and say hello in one of the chat rooms. Or you can always send me an email at wildpaisley@gmail.com. That's WILDEPAISLEY @gmail.com. And if you want to support the show, please do so. You can go to etsy.com/shop/Monarch Mountain Studio. Or you can also go to patreon.com/TheSpacesBetween. Let's see. Or if you want to just support my radio habit, you can also do the hashtag. That's what it is. This is $, TheSpacesBetween. And the phone lines are open tonight, and that number is 213-233-3998. If you're across the pond in the UK, it's 44203-393-2871. And if you've got a moment, check out iLife.com. iLife is the official sponsor for Truth Frequency Radio. And it just goes to support you and cure what ails you. So, yeah, it's a good thing to have. Oh, goodness. So, funny thing, I was reading stories to Mini-Me, because I do that pretty much every night, because it's good for her, you know, and it's good for me, and it's just really good, right? You know, it's good to read to our kiddos, and fell asleep. Straight up fell asleep reading stories, which I do this periodically just because, yeah, it happens. Anyways, I did set an alarm so I'd wake up, you know, just on the off chance. It's mostly so I remember to grab something to drink before I come downstairs, and get tuned into the studio and everything. Apparently, I hit the snooze button quite a few times. Yeah. Because I woke up and I see, look, there's the alarm going off. See, you hear it? Telling me to wake up. So apparently I hit the snooze button every 5 minutes. Yeah. Oh, goodness. Oops. Oh, my goodness. And so, yeah, got down here. I'm like, oh, no. Quick, open up the computer and do the things. And yeah, it's a good time. So I am, of course, absolutely not ready at all for tonight. So I hope you guys have some ideas. Let's see. There was an article I wanted to kind of talk about from pathos.com. And And this is by the author is Thumper Forge. Yeah, and hold on. Oof. Anyways, so I'll include a link to the show or to the article in the show notes, just like I always do. Anyways, the article title is Not My Psychic Circus and Not My Magic Monkey, which is kind of funny. I like the article title just all by itself. Anyways, he talks about a Miss Cleo. I'm not sure who that is, but it was like a telephone psychic job, and it was this gal had been reading tarot since her teens and was a natural talent, so she decided to go pro, and become a telephone psychic. And she was really excited to be, doing something with the skill with her tarot cards and everything else, because, you know what, yeah, it's good. It's good. If you've got a skill set and you want to help people, to just do it. Anyways, she was really, like I said, excited. She wanted to help people. And anyways, she ended up, was frustrated because there's pieces of paper with pictures on them, and that was just what she was supposed to use. There's no real prophecy. It was just paper, basically. So the article goes on about talking about how people hear what they want to hear rather than what they actually hear when it comes to doing any kind of divination or readings. This is true. There's a gentleman who comes into the store every so often, and he uses a divination regularly. Generally more like a pendulum, but anyways, I don't know. He's just very into divination. And he asked me a couple questions, and I just, mostly because I said, "Hey, how you doing?" or "What's new with you?" And he goes, "Well, what do you mean?" It's like, well, sometimes people have something new going on. Basically, it's making conversation, because that's what I do. It's part of being in a customer service type job, really, truly. And yeah, it was interesting. And anyways, I said a couple of things, just mostly, again, making small talk, and he took it as like divination. I was doing a reading on him, and now like I'm his go-to for psychic readings, which isn't really my gig. That's not what I do. That's not who I am. And excuse me, he asked for something specific, and I dodge, total dodge. It's like, well, things happen, and you're probably gonna have something big happen in the next 3 to 6 months. I have no idea what it could be, but it could happen. And I was thinking tax returns or something like that. To me, that's kind of a big deal. Get a tax return, a couple grand, yeah, woo. So, anyways, he's totally into this whole relationship scenario that he's got going on, and I'm like, nah, that makes me worried that he thinks I've got some sort of main line to divination to figure out his life. And I have a hard enough time figuring out my own life, let alone somebody else's. Anyways, back to the article here. So the character in the article approaches divination from a Jungian standpoint. In other words, using a pattern created by a random scattering of archetypical symbols to access your subconscious mind, allow you to see what you already know about the matter at hand, which is, well, basically tarot, right? And so she anticipated the same from her clients. Instead, she got things. Well, my 5-year-old survived the surgery, so the callers weren't looking for objective answers. They're desperate for relief that comes with good news and are willing to fork over $1.99 for each additional minute until they got it. So a few calls in, she's really emotionally exhausted and tossed in the tarot cards and waved a white flag and was done. Totally done. So money was everything here. Because when there's a transaction, it creates an expectation. So you generally don't pay for abuse unless you're into that. But most people, if they're looking for a reading of some sort and they're paying for it, they're looking for something positive, something happy. Because you don't pay a psychic of any kind to say, go ahead, it's the end of the line, pick out a tombstone, you're dying. The spirit's like marble, by the way. There's why it's a funny article, and to put it in medieval terms, there's a reason why the position of court astrologer had an unusually high turnover rate and no health insurance. Yeah, it's because if you don't give good news all the time, if you give any kind of bad news, yeah, it's bad. But if all you do is give good news, you're going to be wrong. So anyway, the character in the article is like, nope, not going to do it. And so it really makes it hard to find a way to use your psychic gifts to gain financially, because some people do that, and there's nothing wrong with it if you're really truly tuned in and are capable. Then yeah, you can request funds and people will pay you for them to give psychic readings of some sort. And often though, people are only going to hear what they want to hear, not what the true message is. So if there's a oh goodness, hold on. So often when we are talking to people about our pagan path and what in your divination and that kind of thing, they assume that they're always going to get good news. It's always going to be a positive result. There's always going to be the warm and fuzzies and the cuddly cat version of the magic. Most people don't understand that reality isn't all fuzzy kittens. By the way, thank you, Lucky. And yes, we were thinking the same thing. Even though people, I think, want a realistic answer and are trying to have a realistic expectations when it comes to some sort of divinatory type practice, they have a hard time accepting the things that are not, shiny and happy. So when someone asks me, oh, hey, which pendulum should I use, or which tarot deck should I buy, that kind of thing, I tell them it's like, the tool is up to you. Because each and every one of those tools that you come across or what might want to use are just a way for you to tap into your spirit guides or the collective unconscious or whatever you want to describe it as, to channel that energy and to channel that information. Is just a tool, kind of like picking up a phone. Maybe that's the best way to visualize it. If you're using tarot cards, you're basically picking up a phone to your spirit guides and asking a question. Same with a pendulum or runes, whatever it is you're using, and it's a way to communicate. That's really all it is. It's a communication tool, and in reality, when we're communicating with the higher power, we're not always going to like the message. Aaron in the chat room goes, yeah, it's like the people who live in the city thinking bears are cute and lovable, gentle creatures. Yeah, exactly. They're not all Winnie the Pooh or Baloo the bear. They are, you know, bears make messes, and if you've ever looked at a bear paw, they're huge, and those claws are really, really long. Had one get into our garbage here 6 months ago, year ago, something like that. It's been a while. Drug garbage clear back into the woods. It was kind of a pain in the butt to get cleaned up because you don't want to leave garbage laying around and all that. And it wasn't because we didn't have the garbage taken care of. It was taken care of. It was just they're, determined. And bears don't really believe in closed doors. They will do things until they get into whatever it is they're trying to get into and make a mess. So, yeah. Is this, you see, locally, we have moose in town, in Sandpoint here. And often, the moose will be out doing their own thing, laying down or eating or whatever. And people who are new to the area or people who are visiting are out there trying to pet them or take pictures of them. And, a moose, kind of like a bear, not very friendly when disturbed. Titan says, Paisley, is there a return department for second gifts? I know some that wish they weren't very empathic. Unfortunately, no, there is no return department for psychic gifts. There's no exchange policy there. You can mute yourself a little bit, but it's better to learn more about the tool and the gift and manage it than it is to try to ignore it. That way, you can filter out some of the unnecessary instead of having the volume on loud all the time, if you will. Yeah. That's funny. Return department. So, yeah, when it comes to divination or, those psychic tools, I suppose this is why I don't charge for readings. And if I'm doing a reading for a friend, I'm cautious about it. I give the information and I give an interpretation often. But, it's not up to me to take that information and run with it. It's like, here's some random stuff and have a good time with that. I don't want to be paid for it, personally, because one, I don't feel that that's really my skill set, and two, I really don't know that people will truly hear what I'm saying, or my interpretation. I think often they will be listening through their own filters, and we do this. We all do this. They're listening through their filters, meaning they're only going to hear certain things, the things that are really important to them. Like if you tell someone, he's like, if you work really hard, you can make really good money. And the person who's listening might say, oh, if you go to work, you can make a lot of money. Cool, I'm going to go to work. I'm going to make a lot of money. And they go to work, and it's like, why am I getting minimum wage? It's like, well, because you didn't do all the steps that were required. You just went to work. Yes, you made some money. You want to make a lot of money, you got to work harder. You got to get a different job. It's not just minimum wage. Lucky says, excuse me, I equate the hearing other people thinking too loud, like psychic, like tinnitus. The hissing and ringing is so loud sometimes and constant that you can't shut it off. And who wants to hear all that? Oh, yeah, very much so. There are times it seems like the people around me are just nattering on to blah, blah, blah. Kind of like in the Peanuts, the adults, wah, wah, wah. That's what's going on. But my tinnitus springs up, and wow, I can't even hear myself think it's so loud. Between the wah wahs and the tinnitus, it was just like, you know what, I have a headache. Can I, call in sick to life today and do something else? Because, yeah, that's exactly what I want. I just want to take a break from the day. So, if you're going to put yourself out there to earn money doing divination in some way, shape, or form, like tarot readings or something like that, be aware of what you're doing, and that putting yourself out there while you're trying to do it to help people, often, even though you're trying to help people, they don't necessarily want helped. They want to be left as is and be who they are, and so they're not really going to hear what you have to say. And just think of trying to explain the color blue to a toddler. It's going to be hard. It won't make a lot of sense. And, but if you have the patience or the right personality to do that, then you'll be very successful. That's why I don't teach kindergarten. I am not the right personality to do that. But other people are. That is their skill set. And more power to them. So, if that's something you want to do and you feel comfortable doing it and you can be confident doing it, then yes, go on with your bad self and do it. Just be aware that often, the people you're doing the divinations for are only going to hear what they want to hear, even though you've gone to the effort of giving them all of the information necessary. They just won't hear it. And that's just the way of it. So, anyways, as I wander around and talk about stuff, also, when it comes to charging for that kind of thing, just like art is based upon the valuation that the artist gives the art originally, that may not always be like that. I mean, at some point, art takes on a value of its own, independent of the artist. Look at the great artist, Michelangelo, etc. Nowadays, the artists, there's some really great artists out there, and they have a hard time valuing their work because they're like, I did this thing and it felt great and I enjoyed it, and it took me about yay long to do, and I guess I'm going to charge this rate for this painting or piece or whatever, and then people judge them for the prices they charge because people are judgy. Either it's too much or not enough or whatever. And when it comes to pricing your own services for doing divination, just do some research, see what else is out there, see what other people are charging, and be consistent with them. If you're going to do free readings, keep the readings down to a minimum. 1 card or 2 cards or 3 cards, that kind of thing. Because, you don't want to, give away the whole farm. You just want to give a little bit of insight. It's like a teaser, or you're, flashing the bait for them to buy into something a bit more. We've seen folks do that all over the place. Hey, sign up here. Do this personality quiz, and we'll tell you what you need to do to get the ideal job, or find your ideal spouse, or who your spirit guide is, or whatever. But wait, here's your little bitty hint. It's a couple paragraphs and a whole lot of ads. Pay us, $9.99, or subscribe to our newsletter for the next rest of your life. And, we'll send this other thing too. And yeah, you can unsubscribe anytime, Just be aware, what you've got, the skills that you're putting out there, charge appropriately. And understand that no matter how hard you try or how clear you portray the message that you're giving from the spirit guides and whatnots, that the person listening is still only going to hear what they want to hear. And even though they need to hear that life is not always grand, they may not hear that at all. So we're at our first break, and we'll be right back. Because that was quick. Hold on.
Songs
Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we're off adventuring into the spaces between. It helps if I remember to turn the microphone on. Really, truly. I am being joined now by Mr. Don.
Who?
Mr. Don.
Who?
Yeah, you. And we're just talking about the paganism stuff and the witchcraft stuff, and I'm slowly waking up, and I should have had another cup of coffee, but I would have had to have been awake to make the coffee. Yay for the power nap. So, there's an article. Actually, whoops, wrong button. It's not just an article. It's a story. It's kind of a crazy one. Has to do with Panera bread, and so in Pennsylvania, and I'm going to read part of the article here. There's a couple of them. So Tammy McCoy of Clairton, Pennsylvania, was hired as a baker at the Panera location in Pleasant Hills, which is a Pittsburgh suburb, in October. And according to the filing, she didn't discuss her religion because it was private. She just didn't feel a need to share, right? And at one point, while she was working, some folks were on break, and she had been on break too. And her manager asked her, so what's your religion? And McCoy was kind of surprised by the question because, she didn't normally share that kind of thing. She says, well, I'm pagan. Not thinking is that big of a deal. And so the manager just says, oh, whoop, nope, you're going to hell. And the general manager nodded her head in agreement. And they didn't want to, or she didn't want to argue, so she's like, okay, and walked away, not escalating the situation. Instead, just kind of trying to get away from it, right? Well, unfortunately, the management escalated the situation. They cut McCoy's cut hours, and when asked why, the explanation had a lot to do with her religious preferences. They continued losing hours, and she was taken off the schedule a couple times, mostly because they said that her religion was false, and she needed to believe in God, and they were praying for her. And they also said that she could have more hours if she, changed her religion. And which makes no sense. And so she went up the chain of command, talked to her district manager, and it's like, hey, I'm not comfortable here. I'd like making a formal complaint. And the district manager's like, sorry, nope, that's not okay. It blew her off. She contacted HR. HR never responded. And the district manager kind of teased her and said, we're not going to keep you anyway, so there's no reason to transfer you to a different department or different building or store. And told her she should just resign. She should just quit. And she didn't. She needed the job because she needed a job. That's why she was there, right? And then both her and her husband, who also worked at the same place, got fired. So, and in the chat room, they're like, oh, that's messed up. They need an attorney. So, yeah, it's they're suing Panera. And in federal court in Pennsylvania, this says that McCoy's civil rights were violated under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prevents discrimination based on the basis of color, race, religion, sex, and national origin. And, of course, she didn't really want to be interviewed about it. And Panera doesn't want to talk about it either because it makes them look bad. But, pagans in general, we have had to keep ourselves kind of on the down low. We are not out there standing on our soapboxes talking about paganism generally. I'm okay, I am, but not most people. And my employer is okay with it. So, and it's frustrating because even though paganism has been around longer than Christianity, we're still trying to get equality and liberty and justice in the U.S. and other parts of the world for just being who we are. And so let's see. The Liberty League, Lady Liberty League, was founded in '85 during the Satanic Panic, when pagans were regularly confronted with similar situations at work and in other communities. And the Reverend Selena Fox said basically it's essential to stand out to anti-pagan hate and attacks whenever and wherever they occur. And you know what? That's a big deal. And I've heard of other people having legal issues because they're outspoken pagans, and that's why so many are still in the broom closet. The Lady Liberty League generally takes complaints having to do with child custody, businesses, zoning issues, housing, and job discrimination, like this one here. And there's been an increase in discrimination over the past couple of years. Unfortunately, I'm not entirely sure why, but it is frustrating that, pagans are discriminated against. Saw a cartoon, oh gosh, it's been a couple months. Basically a pagan is sitting in the stocks, and someone who's a Christian is sitting in the stocks as well. The stocks, with their head and their arms in the wooden device. And the pagan is, oh, is this your first time? Basically, telling the Christian, well, you'd suck it up. Let's see, Lucky says, yeah, just imagine if Panera Bread had done this to a Jewish employee. Boycotting would ensue. Or someone of color. Talk about the fallout there. Basically, pagans are still overlooked. And I don't know that unappreciated is the right word, but it's really hard for us to come out of the broom closet to those around us. I've worked for a couple different employers where, no, I don't say anything about my faith at all. Nothing. Nope. I just nod my head and go on with, just kind of, sounds good. Nope. Sorry. Thanks. I don't need you to pray for me, but I appreciate the idea, the thoughtful gesture behind it. Try to take it as how the energy is meant to be, rather than what it is. And it's frustrating because, as a pagan, I have just as much right to wear my raven skull, which I do pretty much every day, as someone has to wear a crucifix. I have a lot of mad respect for the priestesses and the priests out there who have the crescent moon tattoos on their foreheads. I mean, that's a huge commitment to putting yourself out there, because that's not something that you can just hide. I mean, if you have your bangs over it or wear a hat, yeah, but there's a lot of places where you can't wear a hat to work. And talk about really impacting your income potential or your housing potential, or child custody. That's one that just drives me nuts. In some of the social media groups I follow online, every so often I'll see someone who's saying they lost partial custody of their child either male or female, because they're pagan and their significant other use that as leverage to remove custody. I mean, generally speaking, pagans are not any worse than any other religious group out there. We really aren't. And in some respects, we're better than a lot of groups out there because we just want to be us and we'll leave you alone. Lucky says pagans should have every freedom, especially in this country where the favored religion steals holidays from the pagans at every turn. Yeah, and Jessica Mink says spirituality is a personal matter. Yeah, absolutely. Just like I was looking at the school calendar for Mini-Me, and it's like, oh, well, she gets a day off for Easter. It's like, as a pagan parent, can I call the school and tell them that she won't be to school every full moon? Technically, I should be able to. Not that I am, but I should be able to, or, any other of the Sabbaths. It's like, hey, first day of summer, first day of spring, that kind of thing. We got something going on. She's not going to be there. And they should be able to, just accept it. They shouldn't argue about it or make a big deal of it. Lucky says, when someone butts into my spiritual business, I turn it around and ask them if they have a personal relationship with Jesus. And when they say yes, I tell them, great, keep it personal.
Keep it to yourself. Shut the F up.
I like that. Keep it personal. Elaine says, my dad had horrible parents. His dad was a preacher. Yeah, I feel for pastors' kids, preacher kids, all around the world. Talk about a complicated place to live. On the one hand, your family is clergy, and there's a certain amount of respect that is assumed that you're going to have. But there's also the flip side of that coin, and anybody who's ever met a preacher's kid, you got a 50-50 chance of having the wildest child in your class that way. Either full rebellion or a total mouse. There's no halfway or quiet medium. So anyways, this gal is definitely suing, and I can't blame her, for her and her husband, to do this. So the LLL folks are trying to meet up with the company's diversity officers. They want to discuss the particulars of the process, of course, and it's their hope that they can have direct dialogue with Panera Bread at the corporate level about the importance of stopping and preventing discrimination against pagan workers. We've had positive experiences with such conversations with other corporations and institutions that we've had to contact over the years. So McCoy's lawsuit claims that she was fully qualified to do her job, and the harassment and firing were solely due to her pagan religious beliefs. Yeah, I have to tell you, if I had an employer, go off about me being pagan, yeah, there'd be some bumps in the road, and I wouldn't be okay with it. I wouldn't back down either. But that's also why, quite often I just have not, or in the past, have just smoothed it over, haven't really committed to anything. Yeah, it's frustrating. Right now, technically, even though there is these different instances of discrimination and such, and they're real, we are enjoying an almost unprecedented freedom of religious expression in the U.S. ever. And it's been phenomenal because, look at me, I'm sitting on my show where I'm talking about it. You can see my face. And it's been good. And unfortunately, that isn't necessarily always going to be the case, because those religious freedoms and those and liberties, those can be fleeting, and not just for pagans, but also for those of other religions, including Christianity. I mean, look at our political world right now here in the U.S. It is complicated. We'll just leave it at that. And we're not too many dance steps from losing some of those freedoms that we hold so dear to practice our religions, without worrying about being shut down or harassed, or having to deal with the prejudice and the persecutions. That doesn't mean they're not gonna happen, but I mean, it's I don't know, it's frustrating. There are quite a few businesses like Etsy and Square that do make it hard for pagans to have small businesses. Like Square, eBay, Etsy. If you have things for sale that are considered occult, you have to put on there that they're being sold for entertainment purposes only. So yeah, if you look onto any of the stuff that I've had listed on Etsy, it says it's for entertainment purposes only. Unfortunately, if I didn't have that, they would pull my page. And supposedly, they're doing it to protect people or the public from scams and other illegal activity. Some of the companies do say they have these policies in place because it saves them from a financial liability when the customers complain about results and wanting their money back. Because say you are selling divination tools, and the person who buys it can't do divination, they might want their money back. Like he says, but if you sold a cross or advent candle set, that's quite all right. Yeah. It's funny. If you buy a pack of advent calendar or candles and you repackage them as pentacle candles, or for the elements or whatever, it's the same set of candles. It's just labeled differently, but apparently, it's frustrating. Supposedly, occult items and services is on the same list of that includes hate speech and racism. So basically, they're not saying it's illegal. They're just saying it's frowned upon, or it's not as accepted. And by saying that, occult items are for entertainment purposes only, really truly they're minimizing our beliefs and our practices, and that's quite frustrating. Because we're just as legitimate as any other religious group, in some ways more legitimate. And so having that zero tolerance for pagan or witchcraft sellers that we're seeing online, what's that mean? Does that mean that at some point are we only going to be able to sell things in person at, say, Renaissance festivals or other street fairs? Are we going to be allowed to have a booth at the local farmers market? I mean, it's kind of frustrating. I know that there's been shadow banning happening in social media kind of across the page, for a variety of purposes. And it mostly is that the non-news, the fake news people. So if they decide that paganism or witchcraft type things are, fake news, how long until I start getting shadow banned. Or those who talk about cryptids or things like paranormal portal. It's entertainment purposes, yeah, but quite a few folks believe that that's really true. And I mean, anybody who's experienced or had a Bigfoot experience or an alien experience, they're like, folks, this is real. Well, it's real to them. Everybody else is, oh no, it's make believe. And so, when the masses label something as fake, it makes it harder for the rest of us to stand up and say, no, it's not fake. This is a real thing. Just like the little boy who cried wolf, or sadly, the individual who cries rape when nothing really happened. We've all seen how that has played out in the media. And for those who have been wrongly accused, it's bad. It's not good. And it makes it harder for those who truly believe or have truly had an experience to get their information out there. And yeah. A mezuzah? Mezuzah. What's a mezuzah? Mezuzah. Excuse me. Oh, mezuzah. Yes. If you sell mezuzah and runestones, which one's entertainment? I think you have to include entertainment purposes on both of them. I think it's, if I remember right. And, the masks, right now, whoops, sorry, wrong article, same article. That boycott behavior, that happens. And so for me, I personally have been to Panera Bread, I think, twice, 2 or 3 times. But I don't really have a desire to go back to Panera Bread. I can think of other restaurants owned by local businesses or local owners that are not a corporate chain that have just fantastic food. And I have no need. Speaking of lucky, if you're back in the area, we have a new restaurant to take you to. Their sausage, the breakfast sausage, is duck. Is duck sausage. And, yeah. Don's grunting in and approval. So, let's see. And Titan says, look how they sell Ouija boards. The people are clueless. There should be a warning on them. Yeah, there should be a warning. But no, age 8 and over, what age it is, whatever age it is. You can barely read, but hey, use a Ouija board. Yeah. I don't know. It's frustrating. Even though our religious freedoms as pagans have been more accepted, more televised, more talked about, and in a positive light in Hollywood, and really, truly, a very, very positive light in Hollywood. I mean, look at all the, witchy type shows that are on right now. That it doesn't take much for that tide to turn and for us to be suddenly not as popular, not as accepted. And we need to, stand together, stand up. Don't be afraid to stand up if you're in a position to do so, and not let yourself be shoved back into the broom closet. It's not a fun place to be. I mean, are we there sometimes? Sure, we are, but there is so much out there, and our spiritual path should be just as accepted as anybody else's. I mean, granted, the Church of Satan has been really loud lately, but technically it's still an Abrahamic faith.
Mm-hmm.
So
you kind of have to believe in the one God to believe in the one devil.
Right. The same coin, 2 different sides. So, anyways, if you are ever challenged or persecuted because you're a pagan, man, I sure hope you stand up and say something about it. Because it's not right. You can always tell me about it, and I will happily talk about it on air. But if you're trying to keep your beliefs to yourself and you're called out for it at work, that's not okay. That is an abuse. That's discriminatory all by itself. So, deep cleansing breath. We're at top of the hour. When we get back, we're going to do some singing bowl, and I've got another article here. It's a good article tonight, it looks like. So, we'll be right back, guys. Lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are off adventuring into the spaces between. Alrighty, so top of the hour. The first hour went really, really fast. Can't believe it. Couldn't believe it. So, all right, singing bowl time. I wish that I had had a bigger stimulus package because there's a 7-bowl singing set at the store that I really want. It's got the full chakra. It's glorious. It's not cheap, but it is glorious. Let's see. Justin in chat says, I was watching a cryptid channel where they mentioned witchcraft and pagans, and people were going off about how it's demon worship. He tried to correct them, and most of the chat was against him. You know, that's frustrating.
Yeah.
That's just frustrating. Because that misinformation has been out there for so long.
Well, that's what happens when one religion is dominant and has the ear of the greater public, the greater piece of the public. And we've been fed this our entire lives.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, of course that's going to happen, unfortunately. So it is what it is. You know, you have to deal with it as you go.
Mm-hmm. Really, truly. Elaine wants to know how much singing bowls cost. It varies. You can find them for anywhere from $100 to a couple $1,000, depending on the size of the bowl and the makeup. What they've been engraved with. Are they poured versus hammered? Moon bowls are those made only on the full moon, and with every strike there's another a prayer or a chant or mantra is done. It's really kind of a fascinating practice. It really is. And then there's the crystal bowls, which are cut crystal, or the glass ones, which are hand blown or formed in some way. So yeah, the singing bowls are pretty fabulous, pretty doggone fabulous. So, Aaron, yes, once again, people don't know their history. It's bad teaching.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I think about history, I think about it's one of my favorite history classes I had growing up. And, we talked about the Romans, and we talked about the Greeks, and we talked about the Egyptians. Really didn't talk about the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
But we did talk about the Holocaust. And then with Mini-Me, the schooling that we were doing for her, it came with a history packet, and the history packet was very, very biblical in nature. And that was interesting. Honestly, though, you can't really teach a history class without teaching religion. Because religion has been the foundation for so many wars and battles and country line shifting and so much change in our world. Think about it. Israel as a country is relatively new in modern history, and it's because of the 7-Day War. Is it the 7-Day War?
7-year? What are you talking about?
So in the Middle East, the Jewish people, excuse me, when they left Germany because they were being persecuted, a lot of them went to Israel or the Middle East, and they were just finding patches of sand out in the wild and turning it into homesteads, and they were farming it and doing really good things. And the Arabic nations were like, no, we don't want Jewish folks here, and that's bad. And so they attacked
I think you're talking about
Israelis.
the 6-Day War.
Six-Day War, yeah.
And that was Palestine and Israel, Israelites.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Anyway, so the Arabic nations came together, tried to boot them out, and lost horribly. And in 1948, thank you, Titan, Israel, as we know it today, was established. And they've had nothing but problems since.
That's when the Giza...
Giza Valley?
Not Giza.
No, not Giza. But yes, I know exactly what you're saying. Gaza. So yes, the 6-Day War of 1967, which was for 6 days, was located in thanks Lucky, Middle East. Result: Israeli victory, territorial changes. Israel occupied the Gaza Strip and the Sinai Peninsula, the West Bank, which includes East Jerusalem and the Golan Heights. Yep, Gaza. Well, you were close. Giza, Gaza.
It's
a 4-letter word.
It's always in my head. Giza is always in my head. But yes, Gaza. It's the Gaza.
Had, a country off and on for a couple millennia now. But that was based upon religion. The Islam doesn't really approve of Judaism. But yeah, there's so many wars have been fought, and so much history has been changed and altered because of religion. The Holy Wars. That's a big deal. The Romans were often very, very accepting of the different religions that they came across, and would integrate those different religions into their own and move forward and change their own viewpoints. So yeah, it's hard to learn about history and not have a lesson in religion. But I also think comparative religion should be taught in high school also. A good overview, not very in-depth, because a lot of high school kids don't really get it.
Yeah, it's TLDR.
But most of them aren't going to go to college. But I think it should be mandatory in college. Because, yeah, that's some really good information. That's part of the reason why the U.S. had problems in Vietnam. We didn't understand the culture and the beliefs of the people we were up against. Same with pretty much any war fought in Afghanistan. We don't understand the way they believe, so we have problems there. So yeah, if you don't understand the religion, it's really hard to go in and help people when it comes to war. Or at least accept those different religious ideals. Another article here that I wanted to talk about by Thorne Mooney, who's a fantastic author, by the way. Thorne writes, secular versus religious, making distinctions as a witch. Because, yes, that's a big thing now. It's common to assert that witchcraft is a practice as opposed to a religion in and of itself. You might hear this in the context of Wicca is a religion, but witchcraft is a practice. Or witchcraft is a secular craft, and some people just combine it with their religions. And many practitioners identify as secular witches or non-religious witches, and our communities are just adjusting both our perspectives and our vocabularies to better include and understand the growing variety, which is a good thing, honestly. These perspectives are valid and make a lot of sense to an increasing number of people, but they do assume particular definitions of what it means for things to be religious or secular. Those definitions, it turns out, are not universal, and they're worth taking time to explore. So she has a video here where she talks about some of her perspectives. But basically, for me, I feel that Wicca is a religion. Witchcraft in general is a little more complicated, but you're appealing to a deity, generally, to work with you when you're doing spell work or ritual work. That's pretty religious in nature when you're working with a deity or spirits of any kind. Paganism, in general, is deity. We're talking about deities that are not of the Abrahamic traditions. And that's kind of a religion, kind of a thing of it, all of its own. So, I think the biggest thing is people assume when the word religion gets dropped, it's a big thing. It's Gothic churches and ringing bells, and you're sitting there listening to the priest or pastor drone on and on for the sermon, fire and brimstone. Religion It just means something you do habitually. So you're very religious about your chores. It means you do them on a consistent basis, or your homework or something like that. Religion is not always Christianity. It's doing something habitually. Your daily devotion, your meditation in front of your altar, or your taking care of your altar, or taking care of your ancestors' graves or gravestones. That's all could be viewed as a religious practice, not just one for Christianity. It's just a way of thinking or modifying our thinking to accept that it's just a standard practice. It is, we're just doing the things, that's all. And often it seems like, just as the gal that worked for Panera had problems being a pagan there, it's because they assumed the religion part of it was something that it really wasn't. And I think, and part of the reason why I'm doing the show is to help educate people out there that pagans are not scary. We're not in league with Satan. We're not going to kidnap your children and eat them or anything like that, which is nuts. I remember it's been a few months. I co-hosted a show with Lucky, and I don't remember what it was we were talking about. But mostly we were talking about current events, and people in the chat room were like, wow, you're a witch and you have this opinion. Maybe it's not so bad to listen to witches or talk to witches or pagans. And it was interesting because the opinion initially when we started talking and I was like, hey, this is who I am and this is what I do. They're like kind of a boo, hiss, grr, growl, bark, bark, kind of a thing. But by the end of the show, they're like, oh, you're not freaking out. You're not, this crazy extremist that wears hemp shoes and smells like patchouli. I think I even made the dirty hippie comment because I do that periodically. I don't want to smell like a dirty hippie. Thank you very much. And it's, just a matter of getting people out there to set really good examples to the mainstream world, if you will, that we're just people. We put our socks on just like everybody else, toes first. We wear jeans and leggings, and sometimes we wear hats and sometimes we don't. We use a broom generally to clean up dirt. We don't fly around on them.
Depends on how pissed Mama is.
That's why I want a Roomba.
A Broomba?
A Broomba, you're funny. So, yeah, oh, Lucky. Interesting, Lucky. Lucky says, like as if I should have a disclaimer at the beginning of my show stating that I'm a witch. I don't see any other newscasters having to claim that they're Christian or Jewish. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I know I've watched quite a few video clips from different political types or, just different political types or money gurus, that kind of thing. And they don't start off with saying, well, I'm a Christian and I believe it this way. You can kind of tell just by the way they speak, but it's not overt in your face. It's just, you can tell us part of who they are by their speech. So if I am illustrating who I am in part by the way I speak, that should be just as acceptable. Jessica, she's not a tree hugger either, LOL. I hug trees. I cuddled with Groot there for a while when he first sprouted. That was pretty awesome. Yeah. So, anyways, just when it comes to religion and witchcraft, I think so often that we assume that if we're doing spell work or other ritual type things, yeah, technically that is considered a religious practice. And there's nothing wrong with it being considered a religious practice. It's just part of who we are. That's all. I mean, I'm pretty sure Don doesn't put it out there all the time that, he's an Odinist and he has a BS cutter.
It's sitting right there.
Right where?
It's right there.
Oh, right there.
You had to bring it up.
I did have to bring it up because it's funny. You get all excited about it. It's a pretty awesome knife.
This is the bottom line.
Yeah, careful, you're going to poke out someone's eye. Yeah. Did that come with a disclaimer? Is for entertainment purposes only?
Yes. Because, you can't cut butter with it.
Yeah, you could if it's a warm day.
If it was smashed butter with it.
Marie says she doesn't talk about or tell anybody about what we discuss here. Maybe,
No,
it's
that's
our
absolutely okay, too. Mm-hmm. It's funny, though. It's not funny. It's interesting. There are some people that may or may not watch this show, that may or may not admit they do. And that's okay. That's absolutely fine. We're here to have a discussion. If you're listening and you're part of the discussion, or if you're just lurking and absorbing and taking what's there and doing whatever with it, whether you famous saying, it just went right out of my head.
That's
but if it works for you, use it. If it doesn't, throw it away. It's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Come listen, learn, expand your mind. Expand your knowledge. And if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, well, that's great too.
Mm-hmm.
You got to try something to find out if it works. So it's a matter of, it's not a matter of what religion are you. It's how open is your mind to accepting being accepting of others,
mm-hmm.
and searching for a balance, a peace, what you may feel like you're missing, mm-hmm. or what just doesn't feel right, and something to try to replace that. So anyhow.
So as you're saying that, I got to thinking, it's like, you know what? Aliens will not tell us that they are among us until after everybody will accept paganism. Because why would aliens be accepted if we don't accept people who are already here having different beliefs and do things differently? So, does that mean we're just aliens? Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned that most people don't care, but there are a few that will cause trouble, and I keep away from those.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, yeah, exactly. It's like,
yes.
You birds of a feather,
Mm-hmm.
If you don't fit into that particular flock, well, then there you go.
Exactly. And, sometimes it's part of the reason why friendships change and your inner circle changes, because as someone approaches your inner circle and you get to know them better and they start talking about who they really are, you're like, okay, maybe we're not going to spend as much time with you, and you're not invited to the barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how it is. Now, I have quite a few friends that, I just don't talk about paganism.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't talk about religion at all. It's just easier. If we don't bring it up, then we don't talk about it, and it's a non-issue. There's others I know that we can debate and talk about it, and it's a conversation.
And at the end of the day, it's like, all right, we'll see you later.
Mm-hmm. It's like...
And you actually do see them later.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Had a conversation the other day about a mandated minimum wage with someone. And
That was a long conversation that went nowhere.
and individuals upset because their child,
Made almost as much money as they did
yes,
with their first job out of high school.
is still in high school, washing
Oh,
dishes
still in high school.
at our local restaurant. And the parent is a teacher. And it's like, yeah, this isn't sustainable.
Is a college teacher.
Yeah, you're right. It's not sustainable. And that's why a mandated minimum wage isn't going to work. So,
And it blows me away that this person just kept going about how it's fair, but it's not fair, but it's fair, but it's not fair, but it's not fair to me because I've worked all my life, and yet here they are defending the situation of this unsustainable. What did she call it? An unsustainable model.
mm-hmm.
Well, you're complaining that it doesn't work for you, but you're defending it at the same time. So where's the disconnect?
Yeah.
But I mean, you can't sit on both sides of it and bitch about both sides of it. Sorry.
Yeah, you really can't. Aaron says, Jesus told his apostles to become all things to all people. And what the meaning to him is, anyways, is to listen to all people and they will hear you. You walk away in peace. It shouldn't matter what your faith is to listen. If it's true and strong, listening shouldn't affect your faith. It shouldn't strengthen your relationship with humans. Or should strengthen your relationship with humans. Yeah, conversation. You know, you get so much further in life conversing with others rather than shouting at them.
Well, and
arguing with them.
Titan says very, very similar thing to Lucky's point, Christian, pagan, or otherwise. When you're comfortable in your own skin, you are comfortable with everyone, regardless of what they believe. Which is pretty much the same thing Aaron said. If you're strong enough in your belief, your faith, whatever you want to call it, then nobody's going to change your mind about it. But be open-minded and listen.
Yeah.
Be mindful.
I've counseled people who had questions about religion or their beliefs, and it's like, well, I can give you my advice, but technically I'm not Christian, so I can only give you so much advice, and at some point I'm going to tell you that your best choice, if you want to learn more about Christianity, is to talk to a Christian pastor or priest. And that's all there is to it. But having a spirituality conversation, yeah, no problems. It's just, if you're looking for a level of advice that I'm not able to give because that's not my specialty, that's not where my skill set lies, then I'm going to refer you to someone who can, because that's the right thing. I'm not going to misinform someone because I think they shouldn't, ask questions about Christianity. If you ask me questions about Hecate, I'll happily help you, or Canonos. If you ask me questions about, say, Diana or hell or
anything
any
else.
of those, yeah, I'll give you a little bit of information, and it's like, hey, I'm not the specialist here, but here's some information, and maybe you should go check out these resources. And if you want, we can sit down and have a discussion, and we can go through those resources together. So if you have any questions, and move forward and do some research, and that's, to me, that's the way I think we should do it. That open discussion without judgment, and yeah, have a conversation. That's part of the reason why I talk about this is my spiritual path. I'm learning things here, folks. And I think y'all are learning some things too. And I think it's great that we're having the discussion, we're having the conversation. And occasionally I'll get on my soapbox because that's what I do. But usually I'm just sharing information and knowledge, which I think is so much more important than sharing judgments. Sharing judgments shuts doors. It doesn't open them at all. It shuts people down. But sharing a conversation and that I think opens doors and gives people a chance to explore things and learn more about themselves and what they believe and what they need. So
Hey, before break, I want
you're
to
too late. It's break time.
do an addendum. Yes, it was Jim Croce.
Anyways, we're off to break. See you
That was for
guys.
Woods Wizard. I remember.
TFR.
My faith in destiny is all I need to prevail.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild. And it's just an adventure. Yes.
The bumpers are off.
Sisters of the shining moon,
Or at least 2 nights.
heaven,
I've
earth,
been talking
and
to Lucky
sea.
about it.
I call upon you in this hour, bring magic unto me.
Lucky says keep talking.
Brothers, all the
Lucky.
cauldron
That's why I'm
cries, sing it unto
let's see.
me. The songs of Mother
I
Goddess
won't get too
and
far
the
into it
Father
because Aaron has a
and the
question I
tree.
want to address.
So yeah, TFR is just playing their music now.
TFR. All right, so yes, this is Paisley. So
Again.
Yeah, hi Al. So Marie says I give offerings to my hold on. Marie said wait.
I was comparing my upbringing in the Roman Catholic Church and the rituals we practice, which I don't anymore. It's the same as pagan rituals giving offerings to the saints.
Mhm.
And then she said, I give offerings to my gods and my guides. It's the same thing, but not under a doctrine or man-made rules.
Similar
I
practice.
have tried reading, understanding the Bible. I fail miserably. I can't get interested in it. You know, and that's true with any kind of.
It's hard to get interested in some of those religious
Well,
texts.
it's hard to get interested in any of them.
Mhm.
I mean, even you know, as far as I'm concerned, you know, it's kind of rough. It's kind of rough reading the Havamal. Is the Havamal over there?
I don't know what you did with
It's right there. I'm sure it's in that stack right there. Yep, that's it. Here, give it here. So, the Havamal is.
Just a minute, Aaron. We'll get there.
Oh, what was Aaron's question? Oh, historical writings do you look at as a guild?
Okay, so no, he starts off. I do have a question. So Aaron asks a question. As someone who was raised hardcore Christian, the first thing I deemed important was to read the Bible or to get as much history and info on what I believe. As a pagan, what historical writings do you look at as a guide? I think is what that is. So that's complicated. When it comes to the historical writings and such, there is a fair bit. A lot of it we have to look at archaeological evidence because there wasn't a lot of writings.
Mhm.
There is some stuff that's written by like some of the Greeks when it comes to the Greek pantheon and all that. The Egyptian pantheon, there's a lot of information there because they weren't afraid to write things down anywhere on any surface, often in fun paint. Lucky says a lot of almost all of the historical writings for pagans were destroyed by the Roman Church or altered. And the frustrating thing is a lot of the writings or the texts that we have to use today were written by early monks and scribes within the Catholic belief system in an effort to try to retain some of the culture. And most of them are written down as stories rather than, this is real. So when it comes to historical writings, there is a lot of stuff out there. You just have to weed through it, literally sometimes. If you say you want to learn more about Odin, do some research. Find books on Odin. There are scholars and archaeologists and historians that have written a lot of information about Odin, and not necessarily in a religious perspective, but is in a historical perspective. And so, like, the Druid recreationists are trying to recreate the Druidic practices based upon what they think the Druids did back in once upon a time. That is frustrating because a lot of the Druidic traditions were passed down verbally or orally rather than in written word. So we're looking at the songs because the songs have a lot of information, that kind of thing. But it's you're doing a lot of research and reading, and there's a lot of authors out there with some really good information. A lot of it is intuitive, unfortunately. Let's see. Leo Medic says, I found that if you look at it as information, not anything more, till I agree that it is. So when I read things like that, I try not to do it as though it might have knowledge, because it might not. So, yeah. And Marie says, she doesn't understand the Bible in English. It doesn't make sense. Honestly, the Bible doesn't make sense. I've read the Bible. I have read the Bible. It's not linear. You can't pick up the Bible and read cover to cover because it's not. Yeah. Like he says, if it weren't for the Egyptian tombs and pyramids being buried until the 19th century, we wouldn't know much about the Egyptian pantheon today. Yeah, it'd be altered. So, trying to think. I would look for not historical texts so much as authors who are doing the research, Aaron. And it won't necessarily be in the religious section. It may be in the historical section of your local library or such. For instance, Courtney Weber. Really liked her.
What's his name? YouTube.
Yep. Hold on.
Jackson Crawford.
Jackson Crawford's really good for the Nordic traditions, but Courtney, she has a book on the Morrigan, and she has one coming out this spring on Hecate. I think it's this spring, maybe it's summer. Yeah, she's got another book on Bridget. So yeah, it's just a matter of finding the articles. Or the authors. And so coming into forums like this and saying, hey, I want to learn more. I'm looking for a good author or I want more information. On the Nordic traditions, Erith Harger. Yep, he's good. He's got a YouTube show. And, so I would find referrals like that. So here I'm saying Erith Harger and Jackson Crawford, very good for Nordic. Courtney is very good for a lot of the Celtic, Courtney Weber. And she's got a podcast too. I don't remember what it's called now. Do you?
No.
I don't either. Let's see. A popular one is Three Pagans and a Cat. It's a good podcast. They're kind of all over the place, but they're good. Try not to, if you're reading or doing research, I generally avoid the folks that take themselves too seriously because they get pompous and they're more about themselves than about the material they're trying to convey. Aaron says, from what I've found, almost everything goes back to the elements: sun, stars, moon, earth, air, water. Yeah. I think there's a lot to that, Aaron, because those are the basics, the air, earth, fire, water.
Well, everything rose from those things.
And spirit. Don't forget the spirit. The sun is huge, literally. The universal energy from the universe is real. And it's, I don't know, I'm not explaining this very well. So here, journal everything. Journal your questions. Put it out there. Hey, I need information on this, or I need help researching that. And if you write it down in your journal and you ask your spirit guides, because we all have them, the Abrahamic faiths call them angels. Pagans call them spirit guides. Same thing or similar things, basically.
Similar things.
And you just ask for the help. Hey, I need someone to help me. I had put that out there once upon a time, a couple years back, and I did. I found someone who, just totally by chance, and she was fantastic. And then her time here was done, and it was time for her to go to leave this world and go to the next. And yeah, was it disappointing for me? Yes. But was it her time? Yes. And I can't resent that. I resent that I didn't find her sooner.
It is what it is.
Exactly. The time wasn't right. And now we've got the local group here that we meet together for coffee once a month, and it's a good thing. So if you're able to connect via social media, you guys, to your local groups, often you can go and say, hey, I've got real questions and I just need some direction on where to research or where to study. And you should be able to get that from your local groups, in theory. Ours is very eclectic, so we've got a wide variety of traditions.
Well, we're in a smaller population zone too, so there's going to be many different, pieces.
There's a lot of Nordic and Celtic influences, though, up here, just because we're kind of Nordic and Celtic descendants.
Yeah. We have Odin Bay, right?
Yeah, I know. Did you know that Odin Farm is for sale?
No, didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful farm. It's like 150 acres. It's also about that many millions. So yeah, put it out there that you need, that direction to research. And also, if you read articles, so I go to Patheos, PATHEOS.com. A lot of really good authors on there. And if they write something, they'll often put or cite to their sources at the end. And those are good resources. It's better than going to Wikipedia, that's for doggone sure. And you just, choose the Pagan branch and they'll help you or they'll direct you. Sometimes, yeah, you need that direction. And there's a lot of, actually, Patheos has a lot of really good articles regardless of what your religious beliefs are. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's good. So I suppose it's one of my more favorite online magazines. Let's see. So the last 10 minutes roughly, 9 tips for the beginner witch. Because yes, again, this is a Patheos article. It's by Anwin Avalon. So tip 1, every magical person is different. Very true. Because it's someone who is a water witch, for instance, is going to be a little bit different than an earth witch. And that's okay. Every magical person is different. Yeah. Tip 2, take an inventory of the things you already have. Your jars, your bowls, bottles, baskets, etc. Because a lot of the tools that you might need as a witch, or for your altar, you already have. There's no reason to go out and buy a bunch of newfangled stuff and spend a bunch of money on stuff when you already have it. Thrift stores are good places to go. Just make sure you cleanse the things that you buy secondhand. Thrift stores, estate auctions can be often a place to find really awesome treasures, antique shows, that kind of thing. And some things you just get gifted, which I think is very cool. Number 3, nature is your ally and can teach you so much. If you observe the cycles of nature and how the seasons pass by, how animals behave, the sun and moon, the mysteries of nature will make themselves known. I mean, they're there. Speaking of nature, you can go wildcrafting and make your own tools. If you want a wand, you can just go get a stick. Go fetch a stick, guys. It's not that hard.
You don't have to have a dragon scale in it.
Right.
Or a phoenix feather.
Exactly. Recycled jars can be fantastic to use. So just make sure everything is cleaned. And if you do get it secondhand again, make sure you cleanse it. And if you are collecting and doing the wildcrafting, make sure that you're collecting from a place that is okay with it. Because there are some locations around the world where if you collect sand from the beach or stones from the beach, it's bad. Yeah, don't do that. So, number 4, working with ancestors is a significant portion of many practitioners' work. There are so many different types that you can work with. If you don't want to work with your own blood ancestors, consider the ancestors of the land. So beyond the seasons and rhythms of our natural world, there dwells in the tween places beyond the space and time. So find nature in your home. Meditate there. It's okay. It's good. Try to connect with the ancestors of the land, your local land spirits or ancestral animals. A large part of many magical paths is a connection to nature, and this is a great place to start. So yeah, like we live in the Pacific Northwest. It's kind of a wild place for a long time. In many respects, it's still kind of a wild place. There's a lot of older energy here as a result. Wild older energy, I should say. In other places, say Australia, they have a slightly different, older, in some respects, very old energy. And if you live close to the ocean, maybe you're in the ocean energy. And so, yeah, those local, naturally occurring animals, spirits that are in the place where you are. Like here, it'd probably be elk or moose, caribou, that kind of thing. Bear. Yeah, those are real. Or you can even go further back into prehistoric times. Number 5, practice grounding, protection, and shielding. 3 really important things. I should probably do a show on all 3 of those. Grounding is just basically you're grounding out the energy that you've got, and instead of hanging on to it, whether it's good energy or bad energy, you don't always have to retain it. Protection. Sometimes you got to protect yourself from the energy around you. Marie, yes, you can collect sand from the beach if it is okay according to your local laws and regulations. That's the biggest thing. If it's not okay according to local law and regulations, I generally recommend not doing it. Try not to break the law, folks. I know it happens sometimes, but try. So, but yeah, protection, it's a big deal. Shielding is also a big deal. Anybody who's got any kind of empathic tendencies going into a crowd is really hard. And so, yeah, you want to protect yourself from the energy there, or shield yourself from the energy. Because, for instance, if you are the last one into a meeting and everybody stares and looks at you, yeah, I would want to shield myself from all those eyeballs looking at me. Same kind of thought process. So, yeah, protect yourself and shield yourself. Oh, Marie, if you're looking for a cup full of sand, just wear sneakers without socks, and you'll have a cup full of sand go home with you. That's kind of how that works. Or sit down in a wet swimsuit. You'll carry extra home with you. Let's see. Shielding is a form of protection, but it's a little bit different because shielding is an energetic practice of keeping out baneful energies, and protection is often via charms, talismans, spirit packs, rituals, or other spells. You figure out which one is going to work best for you. I carry a lot of rocks on me at any given time. For your worst case scenario, if I throw them at someone, they'll go away.
Throw them hard enough, they'll remember.
Yeah, exactly. Leave me alone, doggone it. But yeah, it's yeah. Journal what you're doing, by the way. If you journal it, write about it so you know which stones you're carrying and which helped you the most. And number 6 here is read and research everything, even the bad stuff. There's so much information out there. You'll never know what works for you, what options do you have, and the endless possibilities are out there. If you won't know about it if you don't dive into the sea of information. Read the old stuff. Read it with an open mind, because there's a lot of stuff out there. It's just like it's hard for me to read because it's like pulling teeth. History is really important, partially because it shows us where we came from, but more importantly, where we should not go again. This is why history is taught in schools. And apparently, we need to have remedial history. And some of the older text is very full of misogyny, bigotry, and derogatory language. I get it. You don't like it, you know. But you need to know that it exists as part of our history. Does it overshadow some of that magical contribution? That's between you and the book, the words you're reading. Is it that much of a problem for you? But, you know, often there is some really good information within the words you're reading. You just gotta kind of study and figure out what that is. Take notes. You know, if you read 10 pages of stuff and you end up with a page of notes because everything else was just misogyny, okay, you still got a good solid page of stuff. Set up an altar. An altar or a shrine doesn't have to be a huge thing. It can be a small thing. People have candles all the time nowadays. It could just be a candle. It's a touchstone. It's your connection with your practice, whatever it is. So if you work with your ancestors a lot, honestly, if you have pictures of your ancestors up, that's technically part of your altar. You can look at them and you be connected to them. Don't worry about all the stuff that you see online. A lot of it is just fluff. And different altars hold different energies. I need to get a little statuette of Hecate, I think, for my altar. I haven't found the right one or the one that just calls to me yet, but it's something I want to do. But remember, it's your sacred space. You can keep it private or not. I generally recommend keeping your altars private because it's your relationship with the divine. But again, if you want to take pictures and share, then do it. After you set up your altar, cast some circles. Different paths and traditions have different techniques and processes. Some have salt circles, crystal circles, or, just energetic circles. Find what works for you and what you're good at. And that's not always going to be the same thing every time. And don't be timid when it comes to your circle casting. Eventually, you're going to want to become so good at it that you can rely and trust on just being able to drop it whenever you need to and set it up. Let's see, number 9 here is most magical folk have in common the belief in spirits for the spirit world. Sometimes you will be approached by a spirit, or maybe you're going to seek one out. It could be land spirits, it could be angels, it could be pretty much any kind of spirit. Some are not as good for you as others, and some are going to be significantly better for you than others. And a lot of these spirits have been demonized and minimalized by contemporary beliefs, from the Abrahamic traditions. So you have to look beyond what you've been taught if you grew up in like a Christian household, because like your land whites, they just want to be happy and take care of the land. That's all. They're not bad. They're not evil. So, journal it. Journal. My number one suggestion, journal. It's a drinking game. Every time I say journal, take a shot. You'll be drunk by the end of the show, I promise.
Okay.
So, a magical path is all about learning the reality of nature and your personal experience and all of that. So, yes, deep cleansing breath. Tomorrow night's the full moon. Go take a moon bath. It'll be good for you. Cleanse yourself. Dawn's silly. Set out some moon water. It'll be good. This is going to be a great year. It's the year of the witch. So, yeah. I think I'm going to have Make Lucky come on the show next Friday. Because, yeah, she should. I don't know what we're going to talk about. We'll figure it out at some point. If you are local, Hectic Eclectics is having coffee at Cedar Street Bridge tomorrow at 2. Hope to see you there. Other than that, thanks for joining, y'all. I hope you have a fantastic week. And merry meet, and merry part, and merry meet again. And we'll see you Friday,
Good night.
9 p.m. Pacific time. Bye all. Where's the button? There it is.